Hey everybody, good evening. I see I got it right this time. 7 o'clock, Sunday afternoon, evening. See, I keep messing that up. But thanks for coming. I am Seth Eisenberg, like it says on the bottom left-hand corner, and this is the conservative corner, like it says behind me. So if this is where you're supposed to be, you're in the right place. If you're looking for something else, obviously you're in the wrong place. Um, got a lot of things to cover today, so we're going to jump right into it. So the first thing I want to do is the breaking stuff. Um, I don't know if you heard about the floods in Texas. They've gotten crazy. Like it says, death tolls. This was yesterday afternoon. So at that point, it was 27 people were dead, plus 9 children. They're looking for 27 girls, I believe, that were at a camp that got swept away with the floods. They've been going all night looking for them, and they're saying this is like a once in 100 year issue. And I did find out today. Let me make sure I got it right. Um, they found 2 girls today that were rescued in 27 foot high tree near Center Point, Texas. So they found 2 alive, and they're contacting their parents. And that was a couple hours ago. So hopefully the parents know, and everybody's happy. I mean, those parents are happy. I'm still a lot of people missing, still a lot of people hurt. So I hope they find everybody who's missing and can at least recover the other people so their families can have closure. I mean, that's pretty horrible. I can't imagine drowning. We're getting swept away in water. I mean, I was in the Navy, so I'm okay with water as long as it's not coming at me like 900 miles an hour out of nowhere. As long as I know where it is. So it's fine. Donald just said there's 51 deaths so far. Um, that's horrible. At least they found those 2 girls today, so that makes things, less painful. Let's say that. It doesn't make it better. It makes it less painful. Um, we also have Hamas says it's ready for its ceasefire with Israel. I don't believe them. I think they're just saying that to buy time to do something else, but that's just me. And if I were Israel, I wouldn't take their ceasefire. I would make sure I killed them all first, and then I would never have to worry about them again because they're a terrorist organization. You can't trust their word for anything. And I don't know why we would want to push a ceasefire between a country and a terrorist organization. I don't get it. And like I said, I wouldn't stop fighting until all of Hamas was killed and their supporters were running and hide. But that's just me. That's why, again, I'm not in charge because things would be ugly for them and would never get any better. And that's how it should be. They're terrorists. They kill innocent people for no reason. And then you got these morons around the world who are supporting. I'm not going to get into that right now. Can't do it. Our commander in chief has come up with another idea. He wants to end property tax across the U.S. I'm all for that. I mean, you look at it this way. You buy a house and you pay for the property. And then every year you have to pay taxes on the property you bought and pay taxes on originally when you first bought it. It never ends. You never really own your own property if this is how it goes. I completely agree. I think once you buy your house, buy the property, and pay the taxes when you buy it, that's it. There should be no more property tax after that. And I also think after you hit 65, you shouldn't have to pay property tax anymore, even if in the states where you have to. I don't think you should have to after 65. I think if you're a disabled veteran, you shouldn't have to pay property tax. It's about nickel and dime you. No matter who's in charge, they want money and they're going to get it from you anyway. At least Trump is trying to end that. I don't think it'll, I don't know. I don't know if that'll happen. I think too many people got their hands in a cookie jar and they're not going to give up that money because that's a lot of money. If you think about it, that's huge amounts of money that they would be trying to give up if they were to do that. And I don't think the powers that be would give up that cap. I'm looking at my notes. I'm not ignoring you. That would give up that much money just because someone says so. All right. So that's the breaking news. And I'm sure there's more breaking. And again, Donald, I agree. Hamas cannot be trusted. They're terrorists. By nature, you can't trust a terrorist. That's just how it goes. So let's get right into my guest. He's running for County Council District 5 in Frederick, Maryland, County, Maryland, where I live. And of course, I cannot find the bio with something because I'm an idiot. So somewhere I've deleted it. And that's just how it goes because it's been a long day. Let me try one more thing here and look, see if I can find it. Wait, maybe I did find it. Maybe I didn't delete it. Let's just see. Bear with me. So here we go. I think I didn't delete it, but we're going to check. Man, I got so much stuff on this thing. It's ridiculous. You know what? I did delete it. So we're just going to bring him on. We'll let him introduce himself because he's a smart guy. He doesn't need me talking for him. Just in the vein of transparency, I know him. I know his brother. I've known his brother for a few years. I've known him for a few years. Just like when we had Dr. Cham on, I know her off of this. I know her in the real world. I know Chase in the real world. I know his brother. So I don't want anybody going, he's just helping his friends out. No, I've let it know that anybody can come on here and talk. So it's not just my friends. Let's not be stupid about it. Even if Democrats can come on here if they want to, and I'm just going to treat them the same way I treat everybody. But let's bring on Chase so he can introduce himself because, like I said, he sent me a bio. I lost it. It's not my fault. It's not his fault. Well, it is my fault, but I'm not going to admit it because that's just how I am. So there he is. There's the big man, the boss, the head cheese, Chase. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm like flustered. I know you sent me a bio and I can't find it. I can't find it anywhere.
That's all right.
Once we start talking, I'll find it. So it won't help me then. So rather than, like I said, me talk, just introduce yourself to everybody, all 20 people who are watching, and what you're running
okay.
why you're running for it.
All right. Hi, everyone. And you have more than 20 people. It's probably like thousands by the time we're done with the stream. Yeah. So, yeah, my name's Chase Borns. I'm running for Frederick County Council District 5. I was born and raised in Frederick County, so I understand what I'm talking about when I share my problems that our county has been facing, especially in the last 15 years. I think we have forgotten as a county our heritage of our agriculture and our mountains. I feel like that's been under attack with the developers that, they don't care about, again, our heritage. They just see dollar signs and they want to profit off of that. And I think, and anyone that I've talked to, it doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, and independent, everybody agrees that we need to go back to our roots.
I don't disagree. So let me ask you this first thing because it's the elephant in the room, and I want to get it out of the way as soon as we can because it's going to stick in people's head until we address it or until you address it. And I'm going to do it like they do it. You're a kid. The hell do you know about anything? Why should anybody vote for you? You're not. You don't even own a house. You're a kid. How do you respond to that? And I'll tell you how I would respond after you respond because yours.
Yeah, that's something that gets brought up. Okay. Well, as I mentioned when I got interviewed by the Frederick News Post, I said I think about it. It's something I can't escape from. I'm 25 years old. But I honestly don't care. And I said I'll just embrace it, and it lets me differentiate myself from the pack. And I pay taxes in the state of Maryland and federal taxes, so that's my response to saying that I don't own a house or property.
Now, see, that's very diplomatic and very very straightforward and very polite, there's nothing wrong with that. Here's how I would address it, and this is just me because I'm a huge asshole, and I embrace that. Number one, you're 25. There are people in the military who are younger than that had top secret clearance, that have killed people and lead others into battle. So being 25 or being 18 should make no difference at all. If you're old enough to do all that, you're old enough to run for office. Number two, the people who complain about that mostly are people who are my age that have accomplished nothing in their lives. And they're so angry at your age, you're trying to do something they've never thought of doing. So they're going to try to hold you back and insult you because all they can do is talk about your age. Give them the finger, tell them to mind their own damn business, and then walk away. But that's how I would do it. I don't expect you to do that because I know you're trying to get votes. And if you do what I tell you to do, they won't elect you to dog catcher. But yeah, I don't think age has anything to do with it. I think it's based on desire and where your heart is. And I think your heart's in the right place because nothing about what you said about wanting to run is about me, 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 me. You want to help others. And I think that's a good thing. So anybody has a problem with your age is just an idiot and should be ignored anyway. That's my opinion. So don't let them get to you. All right. I know we talked earlier, and you brought up 270, and people, and if you don't know what 270 is, you don't live in Maryland. That's one of the major interstates through Maryland. It runs pretty much from one end to the other. I think since I was 5 years old, it's been under construction. I don't think it's ever not been under construction at some point on the road. And now people are calling for it to be wider so we can get more people on it for whatever reason. I don't think it needs to be wide, but that's just my opinion. And you're not here to listen to what I have to say. So, Chase, what do you think about 270 being widened? What is your opinion on that?
I don't think it should be widened. I mean, again, I brought up the example. I have family that lives in California. They have to commute on the 405 every single day. That has 10 lanes of traffic, so it does not make traffic any better. It just makes it a bigger parking lot. And again, with the state of Maryland, 270 is terrible. I've driven on it, obviously, so have you, but I actively avoid it like the plague. I have no desire to drive on it, and it's not so much because the 3 lanes of traffic, it's the idiots that drive on the road. The more I drive, and amazingly, obviously, let's go back to the age thing. I'm 25, but I was on my run this afternoon. I was thinking, I'm like, damn, I'm going to be driving now for 10 years. So that makes me feel pretty old. And
Okay.
again, so the longer I drive, the more idiots I come across. And like, I'll give you an example. Like 2 weeks ago, I was leaving the Walmart on 26, and obviously, there's 2 left turning lanes to get out of that parking lot. And I have this guy come up to me on my left, and I'm like, oh, cool. So now there's 3 left turning lanes. So I had to get out of there as fast as I could because obviously, if I don't, beat him to my destination, he's going to cut me off and I'm going to have a wreck.
Yeah, I think that besides the construction that's been going on on 270 for like 25 centuries, I think the other issues, like you just said, like I said earlier, I think it's morons that don't know how to drive that cause traffic. People on their cell phones, people zipping in and out of lanes, people not knowing where they're going, people driving too fast or driving too slow. I think it's more, like you said, you can make it 35 lanes wide and people are still going to have traffic because people don't know how to drive. So I agree. I don't think widening 270 or anything like that's going to make a dent in traffic. It'll just give us more lanes, like you said, to make a bigger parking lot. And I've been on the 405. I went there to visit my daughter a couple of years ago, and it's horrible. It's horrible. Even when it's moving, it's horrible. So yeah, I don't think we need a 25 lane highway running through Maryland because it's not going to change anything. And it's not, and like I said, it's not how many lanes you got. It's the people don't know how to drive. That's what causes traffic. Again, my opinion, but I agree with you that we'll just make a bigger parking lot. That's all it's going to do, and it's going to cost billions of dollars. It's going to have to. They're going to do all 270. I mean, that's a pretty long stretch. And even
Yeah,
if you just go from,
exactly. It's just we're just going to spend more.
yeah, I mean, what, from Frederick to,
Yeah, I was gonna say we're just gonna spend more
yeah,
money, and our state's already in a major deficit as it is. Like we don't have any more money.
well, no, well, they do. They have us. So they'll always have money because we'll continually pay
Well,
taxes.
yeah,
So
they
they're
have
not,
us, but right. Well, they'll tax us more, which
well, yeah,
again, nobody wants to be taxed more.
no, I don't. I don't want to be taxed at all. That's why I like that thing with Trump, no property tax. I think that's awesome. I don't think it'll happen because people won't let it, but I like it. All right, let's.
Yeah, I agree.
So let me ask you another question. Kind of going back to the age thing. I don't mean to pick on it, but again, people are going to make it an issue. As a young candidate who announced your campaign via social media, which is nothing new, everybody does that now. How do you plan to engage with the diverse groups of people in District 5 where we live, including older residents who aren't as active online or just don't go online?
Yeah, so for them, obviously it's good to get yourself out in the Frederick News Post. I was grateful to be able to have an article last week. Obviously, a lot of the older generations still actually read the newspaper. They're one of the few people that do. Actually, I had an older person today say that they saw my picture in the Frederick News Post. So at least one older individual read the article, said it was
That's
good.
good.
Um, Also, door knocking is good. And obviously, with running, you have to get money. And I know nobody likes to, give off their hard earned money, especially, with how expensive the state of Maryland is. But I got my campaign account set up. So I am collecting money now. So I'm excited about that. And once I get enough money, I can, print curriculum and put signs up. So again, it's another good avenue of getting my campaign message out to people who don't have social media.
That was when I ran for the Board of Education, the hardest thing I did was the money thing. I never felt comfortable going, hey, you don't know me, but give me some money so I can run for the Board of Education. It just was always weird for me. I just could never get comfortable doing that. And I guess you got to. I mean, you have to. There's no other way around it. I mean, fundraising is fundraising. So, I know I don't want to say. Well, no, I'll say it. You're a religious person. How does that influence you, or how will that influence you when you get elected? How will that set of morals and values guide you?
Yeah, so obviously I'm a Christian, so I have a biblical worldview. So in my upbringing, I know again that truth comes from the Bible. That's what the Constitution is based on. 54 of the 56 signers, had a belief in God, and everybody that tries to tell me otherwise, they're wrong. They just don't understand history, and that's where I really get tired of apologizing for, because I don't apologize for it, but I get tired of defending it because it's clear as mud, in the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. And also to mention the age thing, Thomas Jefferson was 33 years old when he wrote the Declaration, so it's only a few years older than me.
Yeah, I've never put much. Like I said before, age doesn't. I don't doesn't put. I don't put much weight into age as long as I think that you have the brains and that your heart's in the. Like I said, your heart's in the right place. Not like I said. I know you outside of here, and I know your brother, and I know you're both good guys. So I believe what you say, and I believe that you mean what you say. So your age doesn't concern me at all. I don't. Like I said, I was in the military with guys who were younger than you that had clearances and had actually taken lives of other people. So age, I don't care about the age. Doesn't affect me. And your father's a police officer too, right?
Right.
So was my old man. So
Yeah, correct. He's been a police officer for almost 30
wow.
years. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember you. I think we've talked about
Yeah.
that
So
before.
if he was like my old man, I understand
Yeah.
that there's no BS. You don't play the game. Do what I tell you to do, and be an honest person. That's how most cops usually are.
Right.
Walk that line.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, and
100%.
I respect it. So let's say you get elected. And let's say your first day in office, they give you a magic wand and they say you can change any one thing you want to change right now, and it's going to happen. What would be the one thing you'd want to change immediately?
That's a great question. So you're saying if I actually had like executive orders like the
Like you could
president
do
does?
anything you wanted to do, and it's going to happen in Frederick County. No one could stop it. What would be the one thing you would definitely want to do?
Okay, well, let's go back to the you mentioned my Christianity, Christian upbringing. How about we just bring back prayer in school, in the Frederick County schools? I think people would be surprised how far that would go. Again, I think the problem with the current council, it's not all, but I'll just say the majority, they act like they're gods in their own eyes. So I mentioned this um, in the Frederick post office article or interview that I had. You have to answer to a higher moral authority than just yourself. If I just always went off of my mindset, like again, I'm young, I believe but I'm gonna eventually mess up, and that's why you have to seek older, wiser people than myself.
I tend to agree. When it comes to the current council, like you said, not all, some. And if you're not familiar with the Frederick County Council, I urge you to look into them. I'm not going to say who, but one of the council members was on another board before he became a council member, was the president of that board. That board was investigated by the Department of Justice and found to have violated the civil rights of special needs students in Frederick County over a 4 or 5 year time frame, and pretty much they abused and tortured them. And that person was elected by other fucking idiots in Frederick County to another station above that. And then the morons on the county council elected that moron to be president of the council. The man has blood on his hands and has never answered for anything he's done. He's a used car salesman, a snake oil salesman. So I urge you to look into it yourselves, educate yourself and the people on that board, and you'll find out what POS I'm talking about. It's very obvious, but look into it. And that's one of the things about Frederick County I'm discussing it, and I hope that Chase and other people who eventually start to run can change. Accountability. There seems to be no accountability in Frederick County government, and we can take that to the national level. There's no accountability anywhere. Most politicians do and say what they want to say for the most part, and they get away with it. On the opposite end of that spectrum is Trump. If Trump sneezes, he's held accountable. They want to impeach him. They want to drag him out to town, city square, and beat him up with baseball bats. And I know the answer to this, but I want to give you a chance to say it. Do you support Trump, and why do you support Trump? Or why don't you support Trump?
Yes, I am unapologetically a Trump supporter. And again, the number one reason why I supported him to be way back in 2015 is because he wasn't a typical politician, or he's not a politician. He tells it how it is. He's cutthroat. He goes straight to the point. And unlike obviously regular politicians, he makes his promises and he keeps his promises. And we're seeing that now in the first 6 months of his presidency. It's probably the most successful first 6 months of my lifetime. I would challenge and say maybe the best ever.
You could make an argument for that. Yeah, I think it would be. I mean, like you said, everything you said he wanted to do for the most part, he's done. The things he can't do are because rhinos and the other side are fighting him. It's almost comical.
And the federal judges that continue to block his every move, especially on his deportation efforts.
Yeah, and I'll get into that later in the show about that. But yeah, I agree. I mean, illegal and breaking the law is the same misdemeanor or felony. You're breaking the law. There should be some punishment for it, not just it's okay. Go ahead and take our tax dollars and do what you want. No, I agree. There should be some accountability, no matter the crime. The punishment should fit the crime. I don't think if you get caught shoplifting, they should drag you out to the middle of the street and shoot you in the head. I think that's ridiculous. But still, you should be held accountable, and there should be some punishment for what you
right.
So let me ask you a question, kind of off your political platform. Why do you want to get involved in politics? You're a smart kid. Why do you want to jump into that cesspool?
Because again, I'm too passionate about my beliefs, and I've always been, again, passionate about politics. And instead of sitting on the sidelines and complaining like the trolls on my social media accounts, I'm actually going to put myself out there, and you're either going to agree with me or you're not. Again, it's very simple, cut straight to the point, but that's my personality. That's the way I've always been.
Before you ran, did you talk with your family and go, hey, look, this is what I want to do? I mean, like, was there a heads up, or did you just go, hey, by the way?
I basically did, hey, by the way, this is what I'm doing. Probably should have went a different way about that. They weren't very happy, I guess I could say, but they came around to support me. They know me obviously better than anyone. They've seen that I've been passionate about politics for the last 10 years now.
Yeah, heads up might have been good, because like you just said, you're going to be dealing with morons emailing you when you see them on the street. As you get further into the election cycle and you become more known, they're going to come out of the woodwork. All the crazy idiots and people got something to say that know better than you, and it's going to happen. And have you started getting a little bit more of that now than you have previous? I mean, the idiots, are they finding you yet?
Yeah, for sure. They definitely have. It definitely picked up after I did my campaign kickoff event at Thurmont Community Park.
which I
That
was
was
at,
kind of
by
like
the way. It was a good turnout. I thought it was very good. I liked it. I had fun.
Yeah, I was happy with the band did a good job. I joked and said, that was kind of the glue that held everything together.
They were pretty good. I'll give them that. I
Yeah.
was entertained. So I try to figure out how to word this. How do you deal with the trolls online? Because I know how I dealt with them, and it probably didn't help my case at all. So how do you deal with them, and how do you respond to somebody that says, "What's wrong with what we have now? Why do you think you could do better? What's the problem?" How do you respond to that?
Well, I usually try to ask them to, obviously expound on that and say, okay, well, what has changed? Like property taxes in Frederick County have gone up. Um, we we continue to have all the same problems that we did previous to the conservatives that decided to run. Again, it really just comes down to there's zero accountability, and I'm tired of hearing people say, "Oh, well, it doesn't really matter. Frederick County is a lost cause. It's a Democratic supermajority, 5-2." Well, okay, fine. I can only be an advocate for the concerns of the residents in District 5. So yes, I acknowledge that if the council stays 5-2 after the 2026 elections, but if I'm, the second one of the, if I'm one of the two Republicans on the board, then I will challenge the other board members to explain why they continue to push for overdevelopment, which again, supply and demand. I guess their goal is, once there's such a high supply, there's going to be less demand and then the prices will drop. But at what point, where do we have to, how many houses have to be built and how many farmlands have to be, taken over and eroded by low density housing for them to reach this magic number where everything's going to be great? Because nobody's been able to answer that question for me.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can. I mean, on the board, it just seems once people get on the board, they lose focus and they lose direction, and they all just want to get by and get along. They don't want to make waves. They don't want to do anything out of the ordinary. They just want to all be friends. And I think, like you said, people who compromise. When you talk about compromise, I personally think compromise is only done when you have a weak position. When you're right and you have the facts on your side, you don't need to compromise. Facts are facts. I'm not compromising that. This is how things need to be. And if you can't get on board with that, that's your fault, not mine. But I've never agreed with compromise because we can see where that gets us. Gets us nowhere at all. And where it does get us is not good. And I know you just spoke about overdevelopment in Frederick County. What would you do about that? How would you address that?
Yeah, so I would like to introduce legislation that would put a temporary uh, moratorium on development. That way we can, again, ease the brakes a little bit. Councilman McKay actually introduced similar legislation to that a couple months ago, but unfortunately he did not get the support that he needed. So I would like to build off of that. Again, I don't know if he's still going to be on the council, but I know that that seat, all likelihood, will be Republican.
Why don't you think he got it passed? What do you think was the big block for that?
Um, Council, the other council members having, um, again, comes down to special interests and where they're getting their money from. Some people are just, again, compromised on views that they committed to them and now they're kind of stuck.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, again, I have my own personal opinion about that, but we're not here to talk about my opinions. They don't matter. We're here to talk about yours. And I agree with you. I think there's things behind the scenes that they're doing that we don't know about. And if we knew about, would probably anger 95% of the people in Frederick County. An opinion. And and again, I should have said this before we started. Just because I say something or I feel some way does not mean Chase feels the same way. So please don't think because I am saying something that he agrees with me because he might not. So don't put my words in his mouth and say, "Well, he said this." You don't got to do that. It's not fair to him. Um, Well, we got to go pay some bills real quick, and we'll come back and we'll keep talking with Chase for a little bit longer.
Welcome to America's Pulse Network. This is APN's very own White House correspondent, Alexandra Levine.
This is so amazing and miraculous. We've never had a president in the history of our nation doing this. And we hope to God that he continues doing this forever and ever. Thank you. God bless you, everybody. And God bless President Trump.
And God bless you.
Hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine with the America's Pulse Network. I am the White House correspondent right here in the heart of D.C. as President Trump is celebrating 250 years of America and the military.
Subscribe and follow America's Pulse Network on the above social medias.
So yeah, that was Alexandra Levine. She's the White House correspondent, and I think you've been on her show too, previous to this one a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks. But she does a good show, and she's a tribesman, so that's also a plus for her. So I know you haven't been running very long, so this might be a question better asked further down the road, but I'll ask it anyway. What's the most interesting thing that you've seen or heard or had to deal with since you started running so far?
Again, I think honestly it just comes down to the hypocrisy. I'm kind of shocked. Well, maybe I'm not shocked, but a little bit shocked that they're these so-called Republicans, or I thought they were Republicans, that have attacked me. And honestly, the lines have been completely blurred at this point. Like, I feel like I'm debating, a far left extremist. And again, that comes with the territory. But like calling me, a racist, a Nazi, misogynist. It's like, you can use all those words. I really don't care. I'm still gonna, again, hold to my morals and my convictions. The more I get attacked, honestly, the more I mean, I'll be completely honest. It's entertaining to me. I think it's hilarious that, I can cause so much, upheaval in somebody's mind. I don't. Can you explain that? I mean, you've run before for office.
Well, if you're living in someone's head rent free, that means you've hit a nerve, and they're angry. So, like they always say, you don't catch flack unless you're over the target. So you must have said something that upset somebody, and they're trying to defend themselves. And I can say this pretty much with 100% certainty. I know you. I know your brother. I'm Jewish, and I don't think you're a Nazi. You've never come across as a Nazi to me. You've never
That's good.
made me feel scared or anything like that. So I'm pretty sure you're not a Nazi, which means you're probably not a racist. So I don't know why people just say that, because they're trying to elicit a response, an emote. Because when you hear the word Nazi, you get angry. So they just try to make people angry. And you know what? Screw them. I mean, the left uses the word Nazi and racist so much it doesn't mean anything anymore, which is sad, because those should be powerful words, but they're not anymore. It's ridiculous.
Right.
So also in Frederick County, small businesses, I don't want to say they're struggling, but I know there's a lot of red tape just to get a business started. How would you help them get through that, or what would you change, or what would you like to see happen?
Yeah, so I know obviously several people that have small businesses, and again, it's lowering their taxes. And that's the thing, like this push towards, making everything like Montgomery County, it's not doing them any favors. It's hard enough for them to keep their doors open, especially when we're still not that many years removed from COVID. And obviously that put a huge strain on them. But again, I don't think that the council really cares. I think they all have their agendas, and they're just about self-preservation and making themselves look good for the cameras, and not actually holding any, solid beliefs other than we're important because we're sitting at a desk in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah, I think, and I'm sure this won't apply to you, and it doesn't apply to every politician, but I think once some politicians get into that position, they forgot why and how they got there. And then they're more worried about the next election cycle than they are about where they are currently. So they're constantly in, campaign mode, trying to make sure that the next election that comes up, they're going to win. And I think that's where a lot of politicians lose their way. How do you feel about term limits in the grander scheme, not on local level? Do you support those? Do you not?
Yeah, no, I definitely support term limits. I mean, look at our government now. You have people that are like 80 years old still in government. Like, why do you still want to be in government? Like, retire, if you have grandkids, spend time with them. Or maybe it's just, you've been in politics so long that maybe, their family doesn't want anything to do with them. That could be the case. So I guess they don't have anything better to do. But no, yeah, I definitely support term limits.
It's a problem in Frederick County, so we'll focus this towards Frederick County. Illegal aliens and government support. I know Trump is doing what he can to try to stem that tide, but like I've said before, he's one man trying to reverse decades of issues. So it's going to take a lot of time. As far as Frederick County goes, you think that's a big problem, a little problem? And either way, how do you think the county can address that issue?
Oh yeah, I think it's a problem in every single state. In Frederick County, again, there was a lot of pushback against the 287G program. I support that, and I mean, I think it was several years ago. There was a big protest in Frederick County against that. So again, we have to allow Frederick County Sheriff's Office, Frederick City Police, State Police. We have to allow them to actually do their jobs and enforce the law, and stop cutting their funding, because that has happened as well. The Sheriff's Office funding has been cut in half over the last several years, and obviously we saw the persecution that Sheriff Jenkins went through, and obviously we know now that it was all nonsense.
Anybody who doesn't know, and I'm sure everybody who listens to this show probably knows, 287G in a nutshell is that it allows local police departments to work with ICE and surrender people they have in their lockups that have detainers on them with ICE. That's pretty much it. I'm sure there's more legal mumbo jumbo involved in that definition, but in a nutshell, that's what it is. And a lot of people in Frederick County fight that because they think it's inhumane. And again, it just goes back to people with a lack of accountability and think everybody should be able to do what they want to do when they want to do it. I don't agree with that, but yeah, that's how it is. And yes, our Sheriff Jenkins was definitely hunted for that BS that he was involved with that shouldn't have been going on to begin with, but they drug him into it and trying to discredit him, and eventually came out that it was much ado about nothing, and it went away just as quick as it started, which is good. So what do you think is the number one problem in Frederick County?
Number one problem in Frederick County. Well, honestly, I feel like more people just need to be informed of what's going on. I think it's cool to be able to just, put yourself in a bubble, but people obviously, we live in a very polarized political system now. People pay attention to the national stage, even more so, since Trump has been in the arena. Obviously, you're probably have the same, dialogue with, crazy liberals that, they're the experts in everything. But the same problems that we're facing nationally, we are facing here locally. So I think people need to do a better job, like itemizing that, and just again be more informed. And again, I understand people don't want to be dragged down by politics. It's not fun. There's obviously fun aspects of it. Again, I always say you can make politics as boring as you want to make them or as entertaining as you want to make them. It's just all how you have a viewpoint or your viewpoint of politics. So just pay attention just a little bit closer.
I do agree. Well, before I let you go, anything upcoming? Any fundraisers or any appearances you're going to be making anywhere in the near future that you want to let people know about? Anything like that?
Yeah, so obviously you have my link for my social media down there, Facebook and X. I just started my campaign account, so I'm taking, money donations now. So again, every little dollar counts. This is obviously it's a grassroots movement, so I'm obviously not relying on big giant donors yet. Maybe if I get past the primary, but as of right now, it's just your average Joe supporting me. So I need money so I can again make signs and make my campaign handouts and stuff. So when I door knock, that way I can also make more shirts.
I got one of his shirts. They're nice shirts, and I would have worn it today, but I wore it the other day, and I don't want people thinking that's the only shirt I own, so I had to wear something different. And like I said when Dr. Chan was on, when it comes to running a campaign, it ain't cheap. It's definitely not cheap. And even if you only give $5 or $10, every dollar counts. They can use that in amazing ways. And if you can't give your money, give some time. You could do door knocking for them or for Chase or anybody you support, hand out literature. I mean, where we're at, it's carnival time, so you can work carnivals and help him with that. But yeah, don't think, well, I've only got $10, that won't help. $10 will help. And if you only donate like an hour of time will help. You'd be surprised what you can accomplish in that short of time or with that little bit of money. And if you go to his Facebook page, I have that on the ticker here, or the X page, you can learn more about Chase and find out how you can help him and where he's going to be, and all those fun things. Anything else you want to say? Wrap up. I'll give you 2 minutes. Just say what you want to say.
Yeah, again, obviously I'm running for county council because I took a hard look around the political landscaping of Frederick County, and really all I saw was more of the same, more discounting our Frederick County heritage. You drive down 194, 550, and you see solar panels in our farms. You see these ugly concrete jungles being built up left and right. Again, just causing more traffic, more noise, more congestion. Instead of embracing widening 270, how about we just build more country back roads? I think that would be a lot more appeasing and just sounds better. Again, you might hit a deer, but it's better than hitting another car and going through your windshield. So again, let's protect Frederick County and our heritage, and again, let's also support our police. Let's let them get back to actually doing their job, because you know what, they actually are really good at it, and that would lower crime. And again, I know you said 2 minutes, but I actually do have a good example with the whole crime thing, because again, I have trolls that tell me that the border crisis and the people that illegally came into our country doesn't affect Frederick County. It's BS. It does. On Memorial Day, there was actually a Thermont resident that was seen lurking around close to the town office, and there was a loud popping noise, and somebody thought it was a firework because it was Memorial Day. The guy was actually creating his own homemade bombs. Thankfully, obviously, it went off in his backpack, and he was then found later. A week later, they did a search warrant, and he's arrested now and held without bond. So, and I looked a little more into his background. He came from Florida, and again, you can put two and two together. I don't think he should have been here to begin with.
I agree. I think that's an issue no matter where you're at, and people can try to downplay it all they want, but it's ridiculous. But again, my opinion. But Chase, thanks for coming on. I enjoyed it. You're welcome back. Anytime you want to come back, just let me know, and I will make time for you. Again, it's Chase Bournes. He's running for county council in District 5 in Frederick, Maryland. You can find him on Facebook at Chase Bournes, or on X at Bournes Chase 99 on X. And you can find out more about him. You can find out how you can help him, and just be there for the conservatives. Remember, always vote for the most conservative candidate you can. And obviously, he's a very conservative candidate, because we've seen what happens when you go to the other side. We lose everything and things go crazy. But thanks a lot, man. It was good seeing you. And I'm sure I'll see you around before the next before election, the primary. So I'm not worried about that. Okay.
Yep. Thanks, Seth.
All right, you have a good one, man.
Maybe I'll speak at the. Yep, you too. Maybe I'll speak at the Conservative Club again soon.
Whenever you want to, just let us know.
All right, sounds good.
All right, y'all. That was Chase. We got to pay the bills, and I'll be right back.
Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. Because the pulse of America beats for God and country, America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.
So everybody, that was Chase Borns. He's running for county council in Frederick, Maryland. That's where I live, District 5. Again, check him out. See what he's got to say on his Facebook and X. He's a good, and I call him a kid because I'm way older than him, but I don't mean that literally. He's a kid to me because I'm old as shit and he's young. So it's more jealousy than anything else as I call him a kid because, again, I'm old. So the next segment we're going to get into is about the illegal alien Alcatraz, Alligator Alcatraz. And I'm doing this to set up the last portion of the show, and it will all make sense. I move my hands a lot. I'm not even Italian. It will all make sense at the end. So just bear with me if you're like, well, he's jumping off topics and doing some crazy stuff. Bear with me. I promise you this will all make sense in the end. So I don't know if you're all, and I'm sure you're all familiar with Alligator Alcatraz. It's in Florida. It's a detention center, prison, jail, whatever you want to call it, that was put up in, I think, 8 or 9 days. So pretty crazy they put it up that fast. And it's in the swamp, so there are alligators there, and I guess that's why they call it Alligator Alcatraz, because it makes sense. And now people are saying, well, I hope people get eaten by alligators and blah, blah. That's why they did it there, to kill people. It's a detention center. Look at it. It's not, they've got bunk beds. They've got mattresses. Of course, they've got cages around the bunk beds because it's a prison. It's not a goddamn resort. They're not there to go surfing and drink Mai Tais on the beach. They're there because they've broken the law. So, yes, there'll be a jail-like atmosphere to it, as there should be. I'm not sure why people can't get over that, or why that offends people. They're not there because they won Citizen of the Year award and they get to go away for a couple months and do nothing. They're there because they broke a law. And like I said earlier, I was talking with Chase, the punishment should fit the crime. If you're here illegally, you should be sent back to your home country. And that's what they're doing. But in the meantime, you don't get to walk around free waiting for your trip home. They're going to hold you so they know that you do go home. And that's what this is for. Up in 8 days, that's a little concerning to me. I'm sure they might have had to cut some corners, but I'm sure it's a work in progress too. I'm sure they're still there trying to fix things and make sure things are running. And I've also read somewhere where they're separating children from non-custodial parents, which makes sense. If this isn't your son or daughter, no, they don't get to stay with you. We don't know who you are. We're going to pull them away from you and put them with their family or with children or in an area of this detention center that is monitored because there are children and minors there. And again, people are complaining about this, that they're separating families. The last time I checked, if you break any law in this country and you're arrested, you're separated from your family, not just illegal aliens. Anybody. If I get caught breaking the law, they're going to separate me from my family, and that's nothing I should be able to cry about. Well, you can't do this to me because you're taking me from my family. Well, of course we are, you idiot. You broke the law and you're going to jail. Your family can't go to jail with you. And with this, if you want your family with you, they can leave with you. That's the whole thing. They're not keeping you in prison for the rest of your life. They're keeping you there until your hearing or your case is heard. And if you're deported, you get sent home, but your family can go with you. There's nothing saying your family can't go with you. They just can't be in the detention center with you like they would be for any other criminal. It just doesn't work that way. And again, it still boggles my mind why people think there should be no punishment for breaking a law, that this should just be forgiven and you should be able to stay in this country even after we found out that you've broken the law and you're here illegally. Most crimes, when you break it, you stay in prison and that's your sentence. With this crime, there is no sentence. You just get sent home or back to your country of origin. I can't think of anything more fair. They're not saying, hey, you're here illegally. Now we're going to put you in prison for 30 years. They're saying, hey, you're here illegally. We're going to fly you back to your country of origin on our dime. It doesn't cost you anything. I could go on and on about the morons that think that that's wrong and that we should just give them carte blanche to stay in the country, which is wrong. You're here illegally. The punishment is you get to go home to where you came from. That's that. And like I said, I think last week, most of the people here illegally aren't here just for 2 or 3 days. This isn't their first month in this country. They've been here for decades. They've raised families here. They've had plenty of time, more than enough time to start the process to become a citizen and not have to worry about this. They've made a conscious decision not to do that. They've made a decision to remain illegal and try to make no corrections about that. They have no one to blame for what's going on with them now than themselves. This is a direct result of their choice and the way they chose to live. It's nobody else's fault. It's not ICE's fault. It's not the government's fault. It's not their neighbor's fault. It's nobody's fault but their own. And what we're seeing now is people who are being held accountable that don't want to be held accountable. They don't know how to react. So they're blaming everybody else for their mistake. And their mistake was not starting the process. That's all they had to do. That's it. And if you've been in this country for 15, 20 years, had you started that process 12 years ago, you'd have been a citizen by now. And you wouldn't have to worry about any of this. You'd be like, hey, that sucks. They're sending him home. I got to get to work. But no. And I blame the Democrats for that. I blame, and people aren't going to like to hear this, I blame religious people, religious leaders in this country for that and around the world. There are religious people who said, don't worry about it. We'll help you. Come across the border, we'll help you. Rather than go, hey, look, come across the border and we'll help you become a citizen. We'll help you with the paperwork. We'll have people help pay for the money it costs to do that. We'll help you do this legally. No, these people have encouraged illegal activity. And people have got killed coming across the border because of that. So I blame those people as well. The Democrats, religious leaders, and other do-gooders. I blame them for the death of people trying to come across the border illegally who died in the desert or were killed by the coyotes or whatever. It's their fault. And I said it on the Pulse, I think it was last Wednesday or Wednesday before. It says very plainly in the Bible, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's and render unto God that which is God's, which means you follow the laws. Follow the laws of the land. That's what you are supposed to do. You don't get to pick and choose which ones you want to follow. You follow the law. It's very simple. But I guess people think they're above God and above the law, and they, don't worry about it. Just come across here illegally, and we'll help you. It's their fault that we're in this situation. It's their fault. No, it's their fault and the person who chose not to do anything for the last 20 years when it came to becoming a citizen. They just chose to ignore the fact that they could do that and wanted to stay here illegally. It's their fault. I blame them. See, that's why I could never be in charge. I'm telling you, I would lose my shit like this 4 or 5 times a day, screaming and yelling and telling people to go do this. This is ridiculous. Holding people accountable. And they don't want to do that. We can see that the government doesn't want to hold anybody accountable because look at Trump. Every time he does something, it's like an uphill battle. That's why I thought it was funny when they had the No Kings Day. What was that, 2 weeks ago? Whatever it was. They had the No King. We have no kings in America. You're right, we don't. This man can't do anything without a fight. Everything he wants to do, he has to fight for. If he were a king, he would just wave his wand and boom, it would be done because he would be a king and nobody could tell him no. So I don't know where these idiots come up with these ideas that he's trying to be a king. No, he's not. I can't think of one thing he's wanted to do that went through smoothly. He's had to fight and scrape and everything just to get things passed that are helping people. But they want to call him a king and a dictator. Nothing that what he's done screams king or dictator. He hasn't unilaterally made laws or done this or done things that kings or dictators would have done. So these are just people who, again, are just morons. In my book, they're stupid. If you think he's anything close to a dictator or king, that just shows me you've never read a history book in your life and you're talking out your ass and you're believing everything you hear on CNN. That's what that tells me. If you think he's anything close to a dictator or a king, you're an idiot. A big, big idiot. So yeah, that was Alligator, Alcatraz detention center. It's not supposed to be pleasant, but it doesn't look horrible. They're not like sleeping on the floor. They're not getting beaten every day. They get food. It's a prison, and that's how prison should be uncomfortable. That doesn't look very uncomfortable to me compared to some of the prisons I've seen. I mean, with Joe Rapo out in Arizona, he used to have people sleeping outside in a tent on the dirt. I mean, that's uncomfortable. In Phoenix, Arizona, it's like 100 degrees outside. That's uncomfortable. This looks like a minimum security prison for like white collar guys that, cheated at pickleball. It's not like San Quentin or Sing Sing. It doesn't look like there's, people getting shivved in the yard and things like that. It's uncomfortable as it should be, but it's definitely more comfortable than it could have been. It could have been a lot worse. It could have, like I said, it could have been like Sing Sing too. Who knows? And that's true. The people that are held there are very dangerous. Some of them are very dangerous. And you don't have to worry about the alligators if you don't try to escape. That's the whole thing. Once again, as long as you do your time and get shipped home, you don't got to worry about anything in the swamp, because they're not crawling into the place and eating people. They're out there if you try to escape. And if you don't try to escape, you've got nothing to worry about. Like I just said, if you follow the process to become a citizen, you'd have nothing to worry about now. Again, if you get hurt, it's because of a poor choice you have made. You have nobody else to blame but yourself. If you try to escape and a crocodile eats you or whatever, you bite your leg off or arm off or hand off, whatever, that's your fault. You made the decision to escape a prison, to go into a swamp where there's friggin' killer animals out there, and you got hurt. That's your fault. You knew. They're not denying. They're not lying to you. They're telling you, hey, there's alligators out here. There's so many alligators out there. We're calling this place Alligator Alcatraz. We're not making it up. They're out there. They'll hurt you. Don't go out there. So, I can't feel sorry for anybody that gets hurt escaping a prison. Do I wish it on them? No. I wish that they would have done the right thing 20 years ago, so they would be a citizen now and not have to worry about this. But since they've decided not to, I don't wish them to get hurt. I wish that they do their time and then get sent home. And then maybe they could come back and do it legally. I don't want anybody to get hurt there. Nobody wants to see anybody get hurt. No one's out there praying for alligators to eat people. And if they are, that's on them. That's not me. That's not you. It's not the majority of people in this country. There's a few people who are idiots and would wish that on people. I don't. They're serving their time. They're getting shipped home. That's the end of it. But I guess that makes me a xenophobe? Is that what it is if you're afraid of foreigners, xenophobe? Yeah, xenophobe. And Fred Profiter, again, who I'll have on this show in the future, is a good friend of mine. He's the president of the Conservative Club in Frederick County, is correct. Pickleball is a rough sport. I have seen people get beaten up over pickleball. It attracts a rough crowd, a lot of gambling, a lot of criminal element involved with pickleball. I advise you to stay away from it. It's very dangerous. All right. So I said I did this segment to set up the next segment, and we're going to get into that in a second here. I just want everybody to remember that. It will all make sense once we start this next segment. Pay the bills one last time, and then we'll get into the last segment of the show.
America's Pulse Network. The mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up, because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. The America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. APN's The Pulse, hosted by Alexandra, Damon, and Seth. So tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: X/Twitter, Rumble, Truth Social, Facebook, and YouTube. Join the revolution. Because the pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.
Yep. So those are the podcasts we have on the network. We've got Alexandra Levine that we saw earlier. She's also the White House correspondent. We have Damon the Hammer Galdo, who's from Jersey. I just call him that because he's from Jersey. I don't think he has any affiliation. And then there's me taking up, bringing up the rear. I'm here as the token angry guy, because the two people that are Alexandra and Damon are very mellow. Very, very calm, very calculated. Think of it this way. They're like a scalpel, and I'm like a sledgehammer. I'm just very blunt, very just bash, 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 bash. And as always, the man behind the scenes is Damon Sherrod, another Damon, the puppet master. He's here to make sure I don't step in a big pile of it or do something that would embarrass everyone but me, because I don't embarrass, because I don't care. So he's here. We'll have to bring him on the show one day so he can explain to you just how fun it is to be associated with this show. I'm sure it's the highlight of his week. I'm sure he just looks forward to going, oh my God, what's this guy going to do now? All right. So I told you that we did the third segment with the illegal immigrants to set up the fourth segment. Now, let me explain to you why I'm doing this. I try not to go on social media too much because it's nothing but like a pool of mouth-breathing knuckle-dragger inbreds. Everybody knows everything. Everybody's a scholar of some type. They don't know more about the law than police. They know more about criminal justice than police. They know more about science than scientists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now they've gone from law enforcement experts to history experts. Now, what these morons are saying and doing is just ridiculous. And here's one of the morons I want to speak of, Melissa Gira Grant. The big thing now is saying that Alligator, Alcatraz is equivalent to Auschwitz or Dachau or Mauthausen. Those are concentration camps. That's the big thing. And like I told Chase earlier, people use these words like concentration camp, Nazi, and Hitler because they know that will elicit a response, a very, very emotional, visceral response from most people. If you hear the word Nazi, like I said, you get angry because Nazis are evil, horrible people. When you hear the word concentration camp, it should be called a death camp. But then again, not all concentration camps are death camps and not all death camps are concentration camps. And we'll get into that. But when you hear the word concentration camp, you think of horrible things. You think of crematoriums, gas chambers, executions, cattle cars. You think of all those things. So when morons like this lady, Melissa Grant, use the word grand opening of an American concentration camp, she knows exactly what she's trying to do and what she's going for. She's trying to upset people. Now, the people she's going to upset aren't the ones that know anything about history. Those are the people like, are you crazy? There's nothing remotely close to what we just looked at in Auschwitz. What she's trying to do is she's trying to appeal to the lowest common denominator, like I'm fond of saying, are the idiots in this country, the easily swayed, the sheep, the zombies, the knuckle draggers, who will read this, take it as gospel, and run with it. Oh my God, we're like Nazis now. We have concentration camps. Oh my God, we need to fight for this. There are no concentration camps in America. I can guarantee you that. There are none. I promise you there are no concentration camps in this country. I have been to a concentration camp. I was fortunate enough to be invited to Austria a few years ago, and I went to Mauthausen, and I'll show some pictures of that in a minute. That was more of a concentration camp, unless you were a Jew, then it was a death camp. I think you only had like a 10% survival rate in that camp if you were Jewish, as compared to like prisoners of war who had like a 75% survival rate. It was a death camp for Jews. Most of the concentration camps were death camps for Jews. Of course, we know the big ones. We know Auschwitz, we know Dachau, and we know Mauthausen, and there was Treblinka and all those. Auschwitz is the one you always hear and see about because it was the biggest death camp there was. If you went to Auschwitz, 99% of the time you were not going to get out. It was designed just to kill. It was an extermination camp, which is sad. And whenever you think about Holocaust as a whole, just thinking that was done by human beings with the express purpose to exterminate more human beings they didn't agree with, it should break your heart. There was nothing different about them than your neighbor. There was nothing different about them than your boss. These were people that just bought into the bullshit like the liberals are doing now and blamed the country's woes on the Jews and said the best way to deal with this is the final solution, which ended up killing 6 to 10 million Jews, depending on who you look at and the facts you want to look at. Because there are now people saying that if you look at the train records from that time frame, and the Germans kept very meticulous train records, you will see that it's way more than 6 million. But we're not going to get into that today. That's just food. And of course, there were homosexuals were killed, gypsies were killed, handicapped people were killed. But the final solution dealt with the Jewish problem, as they referred to it. And I know I just spoke about it. This is the entrance to Auschwitz, the big death camp. And I don't speak German very well, so I'm probably going to butcher this. A Brit Mach Frel is not roughly translated. It's translated as "work will set you free." That was above the entrance to Auschwitz. Work will set you free. It's one of the most recognizable visual icons of the German Nazi concentration and extermination camp, Auschwitz-Birkenau, which for the world is a symbol of crimes of World War II. So again, Auschwitz was the big camp. That was I think that's where Schindler's List, that movie was based on, was happening at Auschwitz. Not a friendly place. This is the perimeter of Auschwitz. Concrete poles, lights, barbed wire, 2 rows of that middle row, that open space between the 2 fences you see is where the guards with dogs would walk. So if you somehow got past the first electrified fence and got into that space, you'd either be shot or chewed to death by dogs. And if by somehow you made it over the second set of electrified fences, there was something they called the kill field, which is 200 yards around the camp, was void of anything, no trees, no bushes. They would just shoot you. Yeah, that's a concentration camp. These are graphics, so please be aware. This is how they treated Jews in the concentration camps. This unfortunate gentleman was executed because he was Jewish. And rather than give him a burial like they would most people, they treat them like animals, use a pair of tongs, drag him by his head, and they're going to the crematorium where they're going to burn him, simply because he was Jewish. This is what this moron, Melissa Grant, is comparing Alligator Alcatraz to. She's comparing Alligator Alcatraz to a detention area for illegal immigrants who are being sent home to the summary execution of Jews in a concentration camp for World War II. She's comparing the two because she's a fucking idiot. And if she's watching this, I'm calling you a fucking idiot, and you should be ashamed and disgusted by what you're trying to do. And unfortunately, the morons you hang around with at your tea parties and dinner parties that all think they're morally superior to everybody will agree with what you're saying. I'm telling you right now, you are a fucking idiot and you're a piece of trash. And I hope you hear this. You cannot compare Alligator Alcatraz to a death camp. This picture sums up what happened at a death camp all day, every day, for years. This is not just an isolated incident. This is not just a one-time thing. This happened to people every goddamn day, every hour on the hour, every minute on the minute. This is what happened. Look at that for a second, and I just want you to take that in. So the next time you hear some idiot tell you that Alligator Alcatraz is a concentration camp, I want this picture to flash into your mind. And then when you give that person the finger, tell them about this picture. Tell them about how Jews and the other prisoners were treated like animals, not even worse than animals. That's how a concentration camp is. That's exactly, this picture sums up I don't even have to show you another picture. That would do enough to let you know the concentration camps were horrible. It was hell on earth, and it's comparable to nothing going on in the world or in this country right now. These are the living quarters that they had to deal with while they were in these concentration camps. And I have some notes on that. Let me find the notes. Here we go. Barracks. These are barracks houses. I've been in one at Mauthausen. I would say they're 1,000 square feet, like a house. Barracks intended to house 150 to 250 people. Still kind of small for that. According to camp construction plans, would usually house a far greater number of prisoners. In the period of the greatest crowdedness, that number could sometimes reach beyond 1,000 inmates kept in a single barrack. So imagine your house is 1,100 square feet. Family of 4, it's kind of tight. Now put 1,000 people in there. That's what they had to live in. There were so many people packed into these places, and people died in their bed. No one would know for days because there were just so many people there. No one took notice. People would pass in their sleep and go unnoticed. These barracks had no sewage system. Until the spring of 1943, they lacked even the most basic sanitation. A lack of water made it impossible for the people to wash themselves, to clean their clothes or their underwear. Prisoners were not allowed to own, regardless, cleaning items. Due to the lack of sanitary equipment and installations during the day, completely unshowered and uncovered sewage pits had to be used as field latrines. So these people would have to use the bathroom in a hole right outside of where they lived. Leaving the barracks were forbidden unless it was during working hours. And you could go out before you went to roll call. You could use the bathroom and you had to go back there. But you couldn't wash yourself. There was no toilet paper. Couldn't brush your teeth. Couldn't put deodorant on. You slept and worked and shit and ate in the same clothes you had to wear. So they got to get up, use their bathroom, then run out and get beaten and shot. These tended to be permanently overfilled. And the stench that generated was appalling, particularly given the fact that all the windows had to remain closed even in the heats of the summer. So you're in a barracks with gaps in the wood this big, floors falling apart. You're using the bathroom literally right outside the front door, and this is all wafting in. Prisoners, based on that, prisoners were constantly plagued by insects such as fleas and lice that would spread disease. So you slept in a room built for 100 people that housed up to sometimes, like you said, beyond 1,000 inmates. You couldn't shower. You couldn't bathe. You couldn't brush your teeth, couldn't use deodorant, didn't have a change of clothes, had to use the bathroom right outside your front door. There was no toilet paper or any way to wash up after you used the facilities. And you had to come back in and sleep next to 1,000 people who were doing the same thing as you in the summer. And imagine last week being in that concentration camp. It's 90 degrees outside. And you have an open pit cesspool right outside your front door. And that's what you get to use. And this is what, and I'm going to keep flashing her name because I want her name to burn into your head. This is what this idiot, this moron, this piece of trash is saying we're doing to people now in this country. She's comparing Alligator or Alcatraz to a concentration camp. This is where they sleep in Alligator, Alcatraz. 2 to a rack, and it looks like what? 1, 2, 3, 4. So what? 17, 18 beds in a room. They're comparing it to this. There weren't beds, there were just slats. Everybody slept on top of each other. Like I said, people would die and you wouldn't know it because it was just so smelly to begin with that you wouldn't know it for a couple of days. But that's what that idiot is comparing Alligator Alcatraz to, is this. This is the same as this, according to her and other people of her ilk. This is another picture I want burned into your mind. I want you to remember this forever. This is Nazis executing Jews and other prisoners, mostly Jews. They are forced to dig their own graves. Then they're forced to kneel down, looking to the grave where other people have been killed while they're waiting for their turn to be shot. Those are bodies in front of them. They dug that hole, again, were forced to their knees, and they were shot in a line. See, the guy closest to us who's falling in, he was shot. The guy next to him isn't bending over because they haven't shot him yet. So he gets the pleasure and the joy of watching his buddy take a bullet, several bullets, to the head, knowing he's next, looking at the dead bodies of the people that are before him. And again, this idiot, Melissa Grant, is saying Alligator Alcatraz is a concentration camp. She says it's no different than this. It's the same thing. Let's call it what it is, she says. It's a concentration camp. Just look at that picture for a second. I'm going to be quiet. Gas chamber. I don't have to explain it. At Auschwitz, they would march people off the bus, or be off the train. Some would go this way, some would go this way. And depending on the day and what the Nazi guards felt like, either you were going to the gas chamber where you would be killed, or you were going to the work camp where you'd be killed just at a later date. If you were going to the gas chamber, they told you it was a shower, strip off all your clothes, put all your belongings to the right, just go in. And again, maybe designed for 300-400 people, they would shove it in as many as they could, to the point where when people died, they wouldn't fall over. And then they would gas them. Men, women, and children. Elderly, young, old. They would gas them. Cyclone B is what they used. Again, Melissa Grant says Alligator Alcatraz is no different than this. Call it what it is, a concentration camp. Told you I've been to Mauthausen. This is Mauthausen. There's a rock quarry. The stairs, the upper right-hand corner where the green is, that the stairs are still there, which is referred to as the stairs of death. They would make the prisoners, as you can see, the bigger picture right below it, with backpacks with wooden backpacks with a slot on it, where they put the rocks from the quarry on, 100-pound rocks, make them walk up those stairs, and just for kicks, just because you're a Jew or whatever, the guards would kick you down the stairs and you would die, just for fun. When I took the tour of Mauthausen, they said they used to have what they call rabbit hunts. The guards, when there was too many people for them to take care of, what they would do is they would take a prisoner's garment, a hat or something like that, and throw it over the fence, and then tell the prisoner, "Hey, you're out of uniform. Go get your uniform, or we're going to shoot you." So they'd go out and get the uniform, then they'd say, "Run, rabbit, run," and then shoot them. That's what they did for fun there. That was how they treated the prisoners there. Back to Alligator Alcatraz. Some critics worry that the tents that they live in, get this, whether they're air conditioned or not, are not sufficient protection for detainees from natural risks in the Everglades. Whether they're air conditioned or not. These people, like I said, slept basically on top of an open cesspool, dealt with fleas and lice. Disease ran rampant through their barracks. And the critics at Alligator Alcatraz are worried about if it's air conditioned or not. So what they're saying is whether it's air conditioned means it's air conditioned, or even if it wasn't air conditioned, there's not significant protection from the things in the swamp. What? Food. They're getting food. You can tell they're getting food. And they have water, and there's phones in Alligator Alcatraz they can use. Prisoners in Nazi concentration camps, including Jews, received extremely meager food and water rations, specifically designed to be insufficient for survival, especially when combined with forced labor. The primary goal of these conditions was not sustenance, but rather extermination through starvation and overwork. Breakfast. Considered a half a liter of unsweetened coffee or tea, which was essentially boiled water with a grain-based substitute. Lunch, about a liter of thin soup, mainly consisting of potatoes, rutabaga, and small amounts of groats or rye flour. This soup was often unappetizing, sometimes made from rotten ingredients. Dinner, approximately 300 grams of black bread, often mixed with sawdust or other non-nutritional substances to bulk it up. This would be served with a small portion, about 25 grams, of sausage, margarine, or a tablespoon of jam or cheese. This bread ration was intended to cover the next morning's meal as well, but prisoners often ate it all at once due to the extreme hunger. Again, this moron, this knuckle-dragging mouth breeder, is comparing Alligator Alcatraz to Auschwitz. She's saying that there is no difference, let me find that picture, between Alligator Alcatraz and this. Call it what it is. It's an American concentration camp. I can't express the anger I have for these people who are ignorant. It used to be I felt pity for them because they're ignorant. They don't know. They've never read a history book. They've never even watched a movie to explain just how ignorant they are. My questions for that moron are there people at Alligator Alcatraz who are being executed? Are there people at Alligator Alcatraz who are being experimented on by people like Joseph Mengele, the angel of death? Are there people at Alligator Alcatraz who are being forced to choose between their children? You can choose your son or your daughter. The one you don't choose, we're going to shoot in front of you. Which one do you want to choose? If you don't choose one, we're going to kill them both. Is that happening? Are they being forced to work 15, 16 hours a day, eating what I just read you? Are they forced to sleep in a room with up to 1,000 other people, basically on top of each other? Do they not have sanitary areas to use the bathroom? Do they not have drinkable water? Can they not change their clothes? Can they not brush their teeth? Can they not bathe for months on end? Is that happening as we speak in Alligator Alcatraz? I'm willing to bet you it's not. Why? Because this country is not the Nazis. We are not about torturing people. We are not about executing people for no reason. What is happening is this country has now become to a point where we're holding people accountable for what they've done. And the left doesn't like that because the left has a lot to answer for and they're afraid. So what they're going to do now is they're going to accuse everybody who holds people accountable of being Nazi. They're going to compare prisons to concentration camps, even though you don't have to be a genius to realize it's not happening. You don't have to have an IQ of 200 to realize that stuff like this is not happening in Alligator or Alcatraz. It's not happening in any prison in America. This is not happening in Alligator or Alcatraz. It will never happen. Number one, because no one would allow it to happen. There's not a person I've met in my entire life that would allow this type of stuff to happen to another human being, especially if they're there because they're here illegally. Nobody would allow this to be done to another human being. But this idiot and all her cocktail party friends want you to believe that's exactly what's going on. The Republicans are proudly calling it Alligator Alley. Let's call it what it is, an American concentration camp. She is by far the stupidest person I've read in a long time. The dumbest, most uneducated idiot I've ever met in my life. And if you know her, tell her I said that. Tell her I hope someone spits in her face because that's what she deserves, nothing more. She's not human. If anybody's a Nazi, she's spreading propaganda. She's the problem in this country, not the people who built this prison or not the people who are working there. It's propagandists like her are the problem in this country and this world. Yeah, I'm a little upset. I'm tired of people cheapening the Holocaust to meet their own goals and spitting in the face of people who survived that because they want to make a point. There's no point. There was no point in the Holocaust. It was the darkest chapter in human history, and it's not happening again, regardless of what the left says or how many times they say it or how many times they cry or how many times these talking heads get on TV and tell you that it's a concentration camp. I've just shown you it is nowhere near a concentration camp. It's not even in the same zip code as a concentration camp. It's not even on the same planet as a concentration camp. Nowhere close. And I challenge anybody to come on here and prove me wrong. Show me that Alligator Alcatraz is a concentration camp. Show me they're executing people. They're experimenting on people. Show me. Show me. And you know why they won't? Because it's not happening. And I'm tired of idiots that use a platform to misinform and miseducate people. And I'm even more tired of the people that listen to them because they're just as dangerous as the people spreading that stuff. So yeah, I'm a little upset about that. So we're about that magic time. So what I'm going to do is, like I do at the end of every show, I'm going to share an opinion of mine. And usually that opinion has nothing to do with the show. It's just an arbitrary, hey, I thought about this, I want to talk about it. But today is different. My opinion is directly in line with the podcast today. So yeah. People who fling around comparisons between things they dislike and Nazi Germany are intellectual cowards, historical vandals, and shameless opportunists who'd rather torch discourse than engage in it. This isn't just lazy thinking. It's a disgusting betrayal of the millions who suffered and died under the Nazis' genocidal machine. The Holocaust was a meticulously planned extermination of 6 million plus Jews, alongside millions of Roma, disabled people, and political dissidents, executed with gas chambers at death camps and firing squads, all driven by a deranged ideology of racial annihilation. To slap that label on anything from immigration policies, police officers, and the enforcement of laws, or even to a bad day at the DMV is not just ignorant, it's a vile, self-serving desecration of unimaginable suffering. These people aren't making arguments. They're vomiting hyperbole, splattering the memory of Auschwitz, Dachau, and Treblinka with their cheap clickbait grade outrage. These rhetorical arsonists, whether they're sanctimonious activists, keyboard warriors chasing clout, or pundits fishing for applause, don't care about facts or nuance. They're too spineless to grapple with complex adult issues like an adult. So they reach for the nuclear option. Nazi. It's the intellectual equivalent of a toddler's tantrum, a lazy shortcut for people too stupid or dishonest to articulate a real critique. Compare, say, a border patrol checkpoint to the SS rounding up families for gas chambers doesn't just distort history. It's a middle finger to every survivor who carries the scars of real Nazi atrocities. These clowns aren't honoring that pain. They're exploiting it, weaponizing one of history's darkest chapters to score points in the petty culture wars or to get likes on their page. Worse, these hysterics sabotage any hope of real discussion. By shrieking Nazi at every policy or opinion they hate, they drown out legitimate grievances in a sea of melodramatic sludge. They alienate anyone with a shred of historical literacy or desire for actual solutions, turning debates into screaming matches where nuance goes to die. They're not interested in fixing problems. They're addicted to the dopamine hit of righteous indignation, basking in retweets or rally cheers while leaving the rest of us to clean up their mess. And let's not pretend this is innocent ignorance. Many know exactly what they're doing, milking the Holocaust gravity for their own agendas, fully aware that they're cheapening a term that should carry sacred weight. These people are walking embarrassment, a blight on rational discourse, and a blemish on society. If they want to criticize something, they can do the bare minimum, crack a history book, gather some data and facts, and then make a coherent case. Instead, they opt for the coward's way out, slinging Nazi like it's a catch-all insult, as if equating a travel ban to Zyklon B makes them morally superior rather than pathetically unhinged. They owe an apology to every Holocaust victim, every survivor, and every person trying to have an honest conversation in a world where they've made grow dumber, and yet they've become louder. Grow up, shut up, and stop defiling history with your infantile, self-righteous drivel. Again, that's my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. That's how I feel about these people these idiots, these trash people. Like this woman again. I want to show her name again. Melissa Gira Grant. That's who that opinion is aimed at. People like her and everybody who agrees with her that think Alligator Alcatraz is a concentration camp. I can't voice my disgust enough. I can't explain how wrong they are. How misguided and ignorant she and everyone like her is. So thanks for watching. I'll be back Wednesday at 8 for the Pulse. Next Sunday at 7. Please catch all the other podcasters, Damon, Alexander, myself on America's Pulse Network, whenever you can. Thanks for watching again. It's amazing that you want to spend some time with me. And remember, if you live your life based on principles and not a party, you're going to live a pretty good life. Have a good evening.